We just talked about it with the Dynamite ratings, the idea that there is a large audience, specifically a younger and younger audience that doesn't care about cable TV or primetime TV, doesn't watch TV, doesn't care about what time a show comes on because they'll watch whatever they want whenever they want it. The exception being when something is live and you have to see it. Right there in the moment. Like a big sports game. Whatever it may be. A big finale of a show. It's happening, it's cultural, I need to see it. Whether that's 50 million people or a million people who feel that way. I don't think WWE or by and large AEW produce that feeling from fans often. So it becomes, hey, SmackDown was last night, let me go to Twitter and see what happened. SmackDown was last night, let me go to YouTube and watch the highlights, or let me go to my DVR and fast forward. You have to give people a reason to stop on a Friday night or whatever night and say, I need to watch this live. And when you have a track record of not producing that, it also takes a while to get people trained to actually think something could happen again.
Well, the thing is also they've gone to such pains in the past to... The WWE is sports programming when it's convenient, but they don't present the program like a sport. And then when the other, which is SmackDown and Fox considers themselves sports, whereas USA, they're in the entertainment classification. Is that correct?
I believe so.
It's one or the other. I think it's that one. But the point is, rights fees for live sports are the things that go up drastically. I know there's rights fees for everything these days, but the sports is what's made the splash, and I would think they would try to have more of that presentation if they're trying to sell themselves as live sports. If it's a scripted entertainment program, like they used to say with USA, who still considers them entertainment, the longest running dramatic program, whatever the fuck, well, then you can watch that next week. It's not time dated. If you haven't seen it, it's new to you, whatever. The urgency isn't there, maybe, in some people's minds, besides the, 2 million people left. That's the WWE audience, for better or worse. But I don't see anything live like the days of the Attitude Era of surprising things going on. And I'm not talking about the stuff in the bathroom or whatever. I'm talking about the stuff with an Austin or a Rock or whatever, the big shit. I don't see the urgency of anything can happen or shocking or different or whatever on the WWE programs. They're slickly produced, and all the talent makes their own matches, and it flows from one thing to another, and it all looks the same, especially Raw's 3 hours long. And on the other programming, AEW, you and I actually probably have more reason to watch that live than most people do, because there is the chance that anything can happen. It's just that they never plan it that way. Some motherfucker's going to say motherfucker on the microphone on live cable, or somebody's going to, land in a horrible crash and burn and paralyze themselves, or, get carted off, or something is going to be hilariously off kilter. With the WWE, most of the time, nobody's going to do anything so stupid that they just collapse in a heap. Everything, injuries and anything can happen, but there's a level of professionalism. The production is not going to fall apart. Things are not just, sometimes there's things worthy of derision for being phony and silly, but not just completely off the rails. Like I started to say Rick Ross. Rick, don't
that
call
Jim
me
Ross,
Jim Ross.
That Jim Ross is off the rails.
Boy. So it's like you watch one show because anything can happen, but it's not the fault of the people putting it together. It's really anything can happen, because you never know from one second to the other if they know what they're doing. And on the other program, nothing ever fucking happens. I don't know.
If you were a teenage wrestling fan, and a few years earlier you had a best friend who watched it with you, and he doesn't watch it as much anymore, but you're still into it, could you call him up in advance of this SmackDown and tell him anything that's going to be on this show that would make him, the older fan, the former fan, think, yeah, you know what? It's Friday night. I need to stop what I'm doing and watch this. There's not a lot happening. There's nothing on these shows, you know, the water cooler talk phrase or whatever you want to call it. There's nothing that makes you want to go out of your way to talk about this or see this.
Why couldn't it be the coffee pot, by the way?
Because you don't like coffee.
People drink coffee, though.
You don't.
I don't drink water either.
That, no,
It would be at the Sprite Zero cooler.
I still can't get over you don't drink water.
Water is just unflavored Sprite Zero, but nevertheless, you know, that's the thing, is that what would I say? I would say, well, you'll love the stuff that Heyman and Roman Reigns and Sami Zayn do. Well, did they wrestle? Well, no, they do interviews throughout the show. Well, I'll just DVR it and skip through if I have time. It's not like, boy, this fucking show's cooking. They got all kinds of shit going on, a lot of talent. Things are fresh. And over on, you know, again, on the other program, I wouldn't be able to, I would say, don't watch this. It'll hurt your, if you used to like wrestling and don't anymore, don't watch this program. It'll hurt your feelings even worse, except for MJF. And so then you're telling people, watch a part of the program. Don't watch the whole thing, because a lot of it'll just bore you or make you mad. But these certain people in this program, if you can search through the 2 hours to get to the 10 minutes of them, you'll love that. It's like the wrestling you used to watch. I don't know if that's a strong sales pitch.
I don't think it is. But that's an indictment of wrestling, an indictment of SmackDown nowadays. And that was SmackDown, ladies and gentlemen, for January 6th. Correct?
That's right.
Well, that was WWE SmackDown for January 6th, another sad affair on a Friday night.
Another sad affair on a Friday. How many sad affairs have you had on Friday nights recently?
Recently, none, ever, not too many. But I have to imagine some of the people out there are having a rough Friday night. Some people out there have a rough every night. And maybe there's not someone that...
Boy, you're having a rough day, I'll tell you that. Folks, if you're like Brian Last and you need somebody to talk to practice your podcast, or whatever the case may be, our friends at BetterHelp can help you. This show, by the way, is sponsored by BetterHelp, as so many of them have been over the past few years, because we've been spreading the word that the folks at BetterHelp can help you be a better person. Sometimes life gets you bogged down, like Brian's verbal skills today. You may feel overwhelmed. You're not overwhelmed.
I feel overwhelmed.
You may feel overwhelmed at this whole thing, at this thing called life. You're not showing up and going on the field and giving it your all like you want to. Because when you're at your best, you can do great things. But when you're not, sometimes you can't dodge all those curveballs that life throws at you or your podcast co-host throws at you. So therefore, you need somebody to talk to. If you're thinking of giving therapy a try, BetterHelp is a great option. It's convenient, flexible, affordable, entirely online. You don't have to go anywhere, talk to anybody in person. You can do it remotely. As the kids say, all you got to do is fill out a brief questionnaire, get matched with a licensed therapist. You can switch therapists at any time for no additional charge, and give it a try. If you want to live a more empowered life, then therapy can get you there. And right now, if you go to BetterHelp.com, that's HELP, BetterHelp.com/JCE, you're going to get 10% off your first month's services. BetterHelp.com/JCE, 10% off your first month's services. This show is sponsored by BetterHelp, and you can be helped by BetterHelp and become your own person to sponsor somebody. You know, if BetterHelp helps you, you go out, you start a big company. It becomes like the WWE, publicly traded, worth billions of dollars. And then you can you can get sponsored by BetterHelp and spread the word around, and it'll just continue on like a tree blossoming and blooming in the forest, Brian.
That's a forest of no good, it sounds like there.
I'm giving you all I've got, Captain.
You certainly are. Let me ask you on the topic, coming out of BetterHelp, just the idea of needing someone to talk to. Do you think there should be almost an exclusive trade for like a wrestling therapist? Someone that knows the business enough that they could talk to wrestlers and actually help them through their legitimate problems that very often will involve the way they're being used, the way they're being booked, the money they're making, whatever it may be?
Honestly, on the surface of it, it sounds like a good idea, but then who would want that job? Think about that. You would have to talk to, on a daily basis, multiple insecure wrestlers, multiple strange, weird, and unusual personalities that have all assimilated into this wild, wacky world we call pro wrestling. I think then the biggest call for therapists, it would be for therapists to give therapy to the therapists because they'd all be nuts. Maybe probably better just stay away from the wrestling business.